It is. We were showing it as a technology development, if you will. So there wasn't a big announcement of it. This is something that will come later in the year. So the software update isn't available just yet. But we thought with IBC being what it is, as a big trade show, lots of people around the booth, and certainly obviously the value of talking about how we can support people that own Sony products was going to be quite useful.
Oh. I must tell you guys, I am a little bit under the weather, so forgive me if I sound a little bit sluggish today. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? My name is James Jackson. We got some news in the Blackmagic and Sony world today. Well, not necessarily today. This was kind of announced at IBC, but it kind of went under the rug. But I know a lot of Sony people are going to be really excited. But this was just confirmed in a recent live stream interview from a Blackmagic rep on Pro AV TV's YouTube page. If you haven't seen the interview, I would definitely go there and check it out. It is definitely worth the look at reading. But the long story short of it is Blackmagic Raw is finally coming to the Sony ecosystem. Specifically, they're going to be bringing Blackmagic Raw to the Sony FX9 and the Sony FX6. According to the rep during the Pro AV TV interview, eventually later on down the line, they are going to look at putting in the FX3 and the FX30 BRaw to those. So I gotta say, I didn't think that this was going to happen. I thought Sony was just fully all in on the ProRes RAW, but this sort of is starting to see that that is not necessarily the case. So the Sony FX9 and the FX3 will be able to capture Blackmagic RAW through a Blackmagic Video Assist 12G HDR, which is their monitor recorder devices. So if you have one of those, you can actually capture the footage from a Sony FX6 and a Sony FX9 in Blackmagic Raw. Now, Blackmagic Design has said that this update is going to be coming for free to the Video Assist later on near the end of the year. Now, some people may be wondering, why is it that we're only getting it on the FX9 and the FX6, not the FX3 or the FX30? And my answer would be is that every single camera that Blackmagic brings into Blackmagic Raw is essentially, they have to treat it from scratch. Blackmagic, the way Blackmagic Raw works, it is designed to take ingest the codecs and the color space from each individual camera. So it's not something that they can just they can just make a Sony SLR3 RAW code and then it just, boom, it's there. It doesn't work like that. They have to, it takes certain information from the cameras. So my guess would be is that it needs more time before something like an FX3 or an FX30 can get it. If I had to take a guess when we probably will see it for the FX3 or FX30, I would say the earliest we probably will see it is Q2 of next year, probably around NAB 2025, if I had to take a guess of when we may potentially see it. Now, there is something that I do find interesting that the reps stated. I'm just gonna go ahead and just play the clip so you guys can see. It looks like this is going to be a FX series only update, but take it from the horse's mouth and check it out.
My understanding is we're working to support FX6 and FX9 first. We'll then take a look at FX3 so that we can cover the full range of those Pro Cine models. There's no development currently for the Alpha channel and the mirrorless hybrid systems. From Sony's point of view, that's a different division, that's a different engineering team. Maybe and hopefully, if this is popular and we see a lot of uptake with Sony users wanting access to Blackmagic Raw, that's a conversation we could have.
I imagine it will be.
So the gist of it is, to me, is that Blackmagic is kind of hinting at that Sony is kind of only allowing this to happen in the FX line of cameras, and that the Alpha line of cameras are not necessarily going to get this update feature. which I know a lot of people that may have the A7S III are going to feel a little upset about it. But this seems to be an issue with Sony, not Blackmagic. So if you do want to see this feature, I would say definitely make noise to Sony about it. Blackmagic, by all accounts, seems that they're very open about it. They even said, look, if this gets popular and this moves, they may do it. But from that stage, they said like Sony sees this as completely different departments and different engineers. So that tells me Sony is trying to segment the different lines up, which is also probably why the A7S III hasn't gotten shutter angle while the FX3 did, even though they're technically the same cameras in just different bodies. Now, ultimately, what do I think about this update? I think it is a great thing, a great tool to have, that we can finally see this with Sony cameras. They're one of the only companies that hasn't sort of embraced Blackmagic Raw up until this point. And the fact that DaVinci Resolve is the #1 color grading and post-production in terms of color grading and working with raw codecs, this just seemed to be always been a miss. Now we get to see Blackmagic Raw in the Sony cameras, so this just means we can finally get Raw to work natively in it. Now, me personally, I'm a bit mixed, and it's not necessarily on Sony or Blackmagic. It's just the fact that of my personal value of external RAW recording. I just don't like the fact that there's so many concerning limitations of external RAW. What I mean by that is the fact that if you shoot RAW in any of these cameras, you cannot shoot internally as well, which is why I've always favored internal RAW recording options versus external RAW recording. And also you need specific monitors. In this case, you would need a video assist, a 12G video assist, not the first generation ones. You need one of the 12G ones, which at this point are not that expensive. I think the 5-inch monitor is like $550. So definitely not bad, and is definitely worth checking out. But it is another additional feature to have. But James, they used this setup during the creator, and yes, and look, I am not to say that I know more than Craig Fraser or Gareth Edwards. I'm not here to say all that. I'm just saying, for me, there's too many concerns for point of failures and things going wrong to shoot RAW. The codecs that are in the Sony FX3 right now for me are perfectly fine, and also I can, if I want raw metadata control, I can already do that with the FX3 with Sony Catalyst browse. So it's not like I'm missing outside of the extended color range, but honestly, you can push the colors so much with 10-bit. There really needs to be a reason, or a clientele reason, or a budgetary reason for me to basically go with RAW. So all likelihood for me, I'm probably not going to use this feature, but for those that may be interested and excited for this, I'm happy for y'all. But I would love to know what you guys think. Are you excited that Blackmagic Raw is finally coming to your Sony FX lines? How do you feel about Sony kind of like putting aside the alphas as not being a part of this feature update? I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know, leave your comments down below. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.